And my grandfather, when he was 15, he was a sheep herder. He decided he didn't know how to read or write, he didn't know anything. He decided this was not going to be his life. And so he walked away with pennies in his pocket and walked off the mountain to the coast and got on the first ship leaving Yemen. And he found himself in Africa. And he taught himself how to read and write and started his first business, went back to Yemen, married my 15-year-old grandmother and brought her to Africa, and they raised 11 children. My father was the oldest. He was meant to mind the shop, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted a university education, which was not available to the brown kids in Uganda. And so my father ran away and got on the first ship leaving Uganda and found himself in India, went to university, captain of the tennis team and cricket team, married my mother and brought her back to Africa. So when I was a kid, hearing their stories gave me motivation. I wanted to do the things that they did. I wanted to live those adventures. And quite often I was told, no, because you're a girl, which instead of calming me down and making me believe that just pissed me off and made me, it was like, why? Why can't I do that because I'm a girl? So we lived in Africa. And one day, we had a pretty good life. And one day, Idi Amin, the president, yes, that is his official title. He thought he was Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the sea. He woke up one day and in his pajamas said to his army, he said, God came to me in a dream last night and told me to take Africa back for the Africans. And so he expelled all the brown people and told them that they had 95 days to leave the country. And so we left. My family sewed papers and money and jewelry and pockets and seams and left to the airport. They searched everybody several times at several checkpoints and took everything, including my birth certificate, which is why my Canadian passport now says that I was born in Yemen. When I wasn't. It's because when I landed in Yemen, they said it's better for her to be from Yemen if she lives here so she doesn't face discrimination. Little did they know at the time that I lived in the US during the Muslim ban. And Yemen was one of the countries on that ban. So we got to Yemen and left a war that left arguably half a million people dead. And all that we had left was 7 shillings that my dad had in his shoes that they missed. And we had breakfast with that in Cairo on our way back. And my dad said it was the best breakfast we ever had because it's all that we had. And we got to Yemen, and we were refugees in our own country. We didn't know a lot about the culture. We didn't know a lot about the people. We didn't speak the language. It was interesting. What we did have was education. My dad was, he had a master's in zoology. He was instantly appointed to the Ministry of Planning. My mother had a university degree, and so she became the assistant to the American ambassador. And she was the American ambassador's secretary. We lived in a 2-room house, my uncles and aunts, my grandparents, and me, and our bedroom floor was our dining room floor, was our living room floor. And I learned about grit, and I love this word. I love the word grit, because we in our polished lives, we don't think about getting gritty, right? We think about getting more polished. But I love what Angela Duckworth says about grit. She says, one way to think about grit is to consider what it is not. It is not talent, and it is not luck. Grit is hard work. Grit is the #1 predictor of success. And this is the grittiest woman that I know. This is my mother. She is one of the first women to work in Yemen. She's one of the first women to drive. She petitioned Mr. Ambassador and got me a scholarship to the international school, which is why I don't have much of an accent. And I always believed that the fact that I spoke English well was a huge part of what allowed me to be successful. So I went to the American school because my mom got me in there. I was the only poor kid, the only scholarship kid, the only Yemeni kid at the time. And I did not fit in. I was not one of them. They had nice fancy backpacks and pretty pencils with baubles on top of them that they bought on their trips back home, and I just didn't fit. And so I tried. My behavior changed. I swore at my mom, and I cut my hair into a blonde mullet, which looked just about as horrible as you guys are imagining it to be. I got into trouble a lot. I punched Mr. Anderson, my math teacher. Long story. I had to belong. And belonging is really important. We have to think about belonging as part of our life, because belonging is, a lack of a sense of belonging is a #1 predictor for depression. We need to feel like we are a part of something, because it is necessary for our mental health. And not having that sense of belonging really affected me, and which is why I started acting up and getting into trouble. My father took my new Western behavior, met it with disapproval, and pulled me out of the international school and put me in an all-girls Arabic school. And there's 6 human needs: certainty, significance, variety, love, connection, growth, and contribution. These are human needs that we need in order to be successful and maintain our mental health. Each one of these is connected to a sense of belonging. So it's really important. So here I am, not belonging there, being pulled out of the American school into an all-girls Arabic school. I did not belong there either. I didn't speak Arabic. I didn't dress like them. I wore miniskirts. I got into a lot of trouble. Before I got into trouble, nobody talked to me. I was just that weird foreign kid. So I continued my behavior. I continued to try and fit in and be like them. And I discovered one thing. I discovered that I spoke English and they didn't. And so I used that as leverage. I helped them cheat on their exams, and I did their English homework for them. And I got into trouble a lot. I just acted out all the time, which really got me a lot of street cred. I got this grudging respect from these kids, and I found a little bit of a sense of belonging. But it took standing out, which was the opposite of belonging, in order to belong. And so that's what I mean. We need to find what we need to do in order to find those things that bring us to the places that we want to go. And I want to talk about standing out for a minute, because if you look at this list of words behind me, if you want any of these words applied to you, if you want to be known as patient, or you want to be known as agile, or you want to be known as smart, or you want to be known as confident, what do you need to do? You have to own that word, right? Sort of like Volvo owns safety, but it doesn't really. It's not the safest car out there, but everybody thinks about Volvos when they think about car safety. You need to be that person, be patient at every touch point. You need to act like that. You need to listen to people until you start to own that word, until people apply that to you automatically. And so standing out is not sometimes being outrageous. It is just owning something that you can convince people that you are that thing. And it takes hard work. And it takes actually understanding that trait, understanding what it means, understanding how to act in that trait, and building it.